Welcome back to Reunited States, the podcast where we bring rational discourse back to our national dialogue. From Manchester, New Hampshire, I am Jesse Saywell.
And from Los Angeles, California, my name is Tyler Ehrig.
And today, we're going to be talking about a whole variety of topics, so we do have some sad news that just broke here, and by the time you're listening to this, this will no longer be breaking news, but we do want to acknowledge that there was a shooting just a few hours ago at a Minneapolis Catholic school that left 17 injured and 2 dead. The suspect was in his mid-20s. He carried 3 separate firearms, a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. He apparently barricaded doors and then was shooting in at the pews from outside through the windows at, again, children, and he died via self-inflicted gunshot. There is no motive or identity released as of yet, so we can't comment on any of that, but to say how deeply, deeply saddened we are about this news. Again, I wish we could be talking about happier things to start off, but we live in America right now, and this has become the norm. And I am fully confident that we will do nothing about this, that these people will die in vain, and that no lessons will be learned because the real problems will not be addressed, and there will be outrage about this and comments for all of a day or two in the news cycle. There will be calls for us to not make this political, and then we will move on. And it will go into this long list of shootings and school shootings and mass shootings around this country that continues to grow over and over and over again. And the people who really need to care, which is the voters, will not care until it impacts them directly. And I'm sad to say that, but the vast majority of them, the ones that we really need to change their mind, to hold their legislators to account, are going to continue to do nothing. And so our hearts go out to the victims, and I, for one, am absolutely, again, continue to be devastated by this just recurring event in America. The great American mass shooting that we just continue to witness over and over and over again. Senseless and unnecessary acts of violence that could be prevented with stricter gun laws if we simply had the spine to do something about it. But I'm afraid we don't. So sorry to start with such a depressing topic here, but it felt like it needed to be addressed. Tyler, any thoughts?
It definitely does need to be addressed, and I think, well, what you said was beautifully worded. I agree with everything you said. I think it is poignant to indicate that one of the biggest reasons that nothing will continue to happen is because of gun lobbyists, quite frankly. It's gun lobbyists that have been in the pockets of mostly Republican legislators for decades and will continue to be in those pockets for decades to come unless anything can be done about that. This might sound very optimistic of me, I don't know, but I want to say that things can be different, that legislators can make the right call in enacting stricter gun laws and curbing the senseless violence if we did something about the gun lobby. If we did something about that, I want to hope that the right heart would prevail without the money in the pockets. But as you said, it's not like we have an answer for that. Quite frankly, there's not much we can do when extremely wealthy, giant, organizations that will silence the voices of anyone who speaks out against their interests, as they have done, despite the increase in gun violence from year to year, from decade to decade. It'll never stop. Every time we cry out about this, every time we say something, and we should still say something. It might feel useless, but we should still speak out about it. But it just feels like every time we do, it's always the NRA or any other gun lobby that is fueling the money to silence us. And that's the most frustrating thing of all to me personally. And it's where I put, quite frankly, it is where I put the blame. Not the entire blame, but a big part of it are these organizations that continue to, silence the fear and the legitimized concern and grief of victims of gun violence, of which we are only getting more of. Tim Waltz made a statement about this when the news broke, and he himself, as we know, like his son was, in an incident that involved gun violence. Thankfully, he was okay, but it's like the victims keep piling up, and it's like the people who are impacted by this keep piling up, and yet even when victims can be like high-ranking members of the government, it still doesn't matter. The president himself could be impacted by gun violence, and I still fear that it would not matter.
And he has.
Yeah.
And he literally has.
He has. And even if the president himself was like, we need stricter gun laws, it still wouldn't matter, because we had presidents that were like, we need stricter gun laws. And you know what happened? Fucking nothing. The power has always been in these stupid lobbies, the stupid lobbyists that have the money and have the power and have the will of the legislatures held hostage. And just, God, it angers me, because something has to happen about that.
I will say, just to Biden's credit, we did pass the first bipartisan gun legislation in well over 2 decades under the Biden administration, something that was not expected to happen. And I do think that will help. But as Biden said at the time, and as we continue to say, that it's just not enough. We're not doing enough. And you're absolutely correct in pinpointing the gun lobby, but I have gotten to the point where I put it on the voters. I do. There's enough evidence out there, and what we have really come down to is there are too many Americans who care more about their rights to own a gun than they do about the rights of someone else's child to live. I believe that. I genuinely believe that we have become a selfish society, and that I don't know if it's the majority of Americans, but it's a high enough percentage of voters in this country that value their Second Amendment rights more than the right to life.
Unless that right to life is an unborn child.
Exactly. That was the next point. The right to life of an unborn child is, apparently, precious. But once the child is born, it's, all... it's a coin flip. We'll see what happens. I'm tired. I'm tired of it, and as you said, there's very little we can do about it. There is one thing we can do about it, which is, again, the idea that we're going to be able to get rid of the Second Amendment or strip guns away from the citizens is not a plausible thing to expect in the coming years. What we have to deal with is the hate. Because the hate is driving so much of these shootings. Whether it's bigotry, whether it is a feeling of hatred towards certain people, or whether it is just a normalization of hating our fellow Americans, and we have to address that. That has to be a core focus of what we do, and that's why we have this podcast, to talk about how we can reunite the country.
It's hate. It's also access. I think access is a big one, and I don't think, because I think people kind of misinterpret access as being able to own something, and I even have friends that are very pro Second Amendment that make this argument to me. I think we have to restrict access. We have to control access. That doesn't mean you can't own a gun or use a gun, like you as a random individual, right? Like, access is different than ownership. I think you're right. The right to own a firearm is fine, but the way in which people, the average person, can access a gun, that does, I think, sincerely need to be adjusted in some way. You know, that can be deliberated without compromising the average citizen's right to just own a firearm. You know, because this is like some kid younger than us that had three guns. Three. He like walked up to the school, like decked the fuck out. Like, how is that possible? Like, how would this person have access to that many firearms and just waltzed up? You know, there's clearly, like, yes, we don't know his position. We don't know about like what the motives were or whatever, if it was hate driven or not, if there was something wrong with them. We don't know. But we do know that there is a problem with the fact that he was able to access these firearms, you know, as a child or as a young adult. That's just weird and needs to be addressed. But it's a sad state of affairs.
Yeah, and you would think that we would view that as unacceptable in our society, but apparently we don't. Apparently not enough of us think that that's unacceptable for us to actually change anything. And, we're just going to continue to hope that slowly changes. But you're more optimistic about this than I am, which is probably a good thing. On a separate note here, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, do you remember him? The
guy with the MS-13 tattoos all over his knuckles.
Oh,
how can I forget?
Yes.
That's definitely not Photoshop.
Definitely not MS-13, not real tattoos.
Yeah.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia, for those who have forgotten, was a man who was detained by ICE, and he was sent to El Salvador against a court order that said that he was not supposed to be sent to El Salvador. He was sent to a prison in El Salvador, again, sending immigrants to foreign prisons. He was here on a currently legal status for being here. Now, again, that can be challenged, and the Trump administration, is challenging that and has been challenging that. He was brought back to the United States. He was released for all of 3 days to his family in Maryland before he was requested to come to an ICE detention center and speak, and at that point in time he was detained. And now the news is that the Trump administration intends to deport him to Uganda. That's right. We are going to send someone who has never been to the continent of Africa. We're going to send him, apparently, to Uganda. And a judge, as of just a couple hours ago, says that he cannot be deported until October at the earliest, because the Trump administration wanted to deport him as early as this week. Now, again, they may just disregard this. They tried to make a deal with him, essentially, about where they would send him. They were going to send him to Costa Rica, but he would have to plead guilty to human trafficking, among several other things that he denies. I have said in the past, I don't think we should be martyring this person. I think that I don't know what his behavior has been. I don't know him to be a man of good character. I have no idea. Most human beings are not of perfect character. I'm sure you can find flaws in this man. But I worry about the left kind of using him as this martyr of this situation. But we can all agree that he didn't deserve to be sent to El Salvador. He was not supposed to be sent there. Shouldn't have been sent there. They said they were never going to bring him back. Well, they did finally bring him back. The Supreme Court did say that he needed to come back. But now they're going to send him to Africa. And, there is some really unfortunate irony here that the country that was built upon transporting human beings from Africa in chains to the United States is now going to send other non-African people of color back in chains to Uganda. This is a really, really strange thing. Again, I can't understand how we think it's okay that we are shipping people from our country to other countries to be imprisoned. Like this is the most ridiculous, insane thing. And just a couple years ago, we would have laughed and said that's absurd. And now, apparently, that is the official policy of this government. Tyler, what are your thoughts?
I think my thoughts are not different than what they were when this news originally broke about Mr. Garcia. This is a horrendous abuse of power. This is illegal. It was illegal then, as the courts had decided when they ordered him to come back. And it is illegal now when they are trying to send him to a goddamn foreign country. We talked about this, I want to say it was that same episode, back when the original news about Kilmar Brego Garcia broke, in which I had mentioned the law that prevents the deportation of people to a country in which their safety might be at risk. Last I checked, Uganda, not the safest place for anybody, that's foreign to Uganda. That would absolutely be considered a place in which, if he were to go there, his safety would be majorly at risk. So it is illegal. It is a fully illegal move for the U.S. to do this. That's what I'll start with. Aside from the clear illegality of it, it's also very fucked up. It's also extraordinarily fucked up. I understand the reservation of making of the martyrdom of this guy, Kilmar Brego Garcia. And I agree, we don't know him, so we cannot put him on a pedestal and say he's the shining example of a good citizen, and that's why we have to keep him, and that's why we have to fight for him. However, what I'll say, kind of to push back on that a little bit, is that while I agree we shouldn't martyr him, we shouldn't put him on a pedestal, we also cannot allow the right to have this victory, and the Trump administration specifically to have this victory, because they are doing the opposite right now. They are using Kilmar Brego, and they have been since they started. That's why they're making a whole big deal about it. They're saying he'll never come back. He is their example of their power, of what they can do to migrants. They're using him as an example. Like, if this were like Game of Thrones, he would be like the head on the spike that reminds everyone of what happens when you speak out or whatever, like, what happens to people that they don't like. Literally, that's a morbid example, but it's quite literally what they're doing. Like, they're using this guy as an example of what they can do with their power and what they intend to do with their power with people who are detained by ICE. And why they're so desperate to do something very clearly illegal, but they're trying to do something so extreme with this person, because that's going to be the example. If they can have a victory in some regard with this guy, that gives them power, and that will instill fear into quite literally everybody. If they can somehow send him to Uganda and it's not legally challenged and it's allowed, that is unprecedented power. That is a terrifying, unprecedented power move by the government. And I would be mortified at what power that gives the federal government if they're allowed to do this. It's mortifying, terrifying notion. Which is why, yes, we should martyr this guy, but we cannot let the government win this. We cannot let this happen. Like, it's simply not. We can't. Like, that's where I am. That's kind of like it sounds a bit fearful, and in a way it is, but it's the truth. Like, this is a battle we cannot afford to lose, because losing it has consequences that I don't think many people are quite aware of, in terms of like what it means for literally anybody else who's ever deported by ICE. We're going to talk about the National Guard in a second, but like, there's a lot of things, moving parts happening, that's kind of all interlinked into this like power move by Trump, and like the weaponization of ICE and the National Guard and all these things. There's power being given to these groups that is going to mean something very scary for a percentage of the population. And unfortunately, that percentage is going to be minorities. And right now, it looks like it's going to be mainly, at least for starters, it's going to be Hispanic immigrant minorities, which, obviously to me, fucking terrifying. No shit. But like that's why I'm like, that's why I'll push back and be like, we have to focus on this, not martyr him, but we have to focus on this, because I think that this is a battle we cannot afford to lose. We cannot allow them to do this.
I guess my question to you is, do you think that we're going to be able to stop them from doing this?
I don't know. I know it's illegal.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter to anyone anymore, apparently.
I know that
not in the government.
I know that the courts will likely rule the same way they ruled the last time, because they ruled that way last time. Like, I'm confident that the courts will say, no, fuck off, Mr. President, you cannot send him to Uganda. I only say that because that's how they ruled when they tried to send him to El Salvador. So I'm confident that they'll rule that way. And I know it's illegal. And that's the frustrating thing for someone like me, where it's like, I work within the confines of the law, right? Like, that's my whole shtick, right? It's like, I put confidence in the legal system of America because I know the law, and I'm kind of like, no, the law is like an unbroken rule of society. Like, you can't break it. Duh. I hang on to that when I think about these circumstances. And so that's still what I hang on to, because there's nothing else to hang on to for me. Like, I'm like, no, it's illegal. Why is that not enough? Why is that not enough for it to be fucking super illegal? Why is that not enough? Because if that's not enough, then literally nothing absent of physically stopping them from deporting him, which I'm not advocating for that. No. But like, absent of that, there's nothing that can be done to stop him, which is why I'm kind of like hanging on to the law with desperation, because that should be the end-all be-all, is the law. But as we are seeing with this administration, the law is more like a guideline. They're playing the fucking Pirates of the Caribbean book.
No, I mean, it's very clear that's... Look, we are in an authoritarian state right now, whether we like it or not, because the leaders of the country, particularly in the executive branch, are not abiding by the laws that they are sworn to protect. Donald Trump took an oath of office twice, once in 2016 and then once several months ago, to execute the laws of the Constitution faithfully. And I don't know how you could make an argument that he's actually doing that, how you could make an actual factual argument that he's doing that. He is deliberately ignoring the laws of this country. Another piece of evidence of that was this past week. He signed an executive order saying that if you burn an American flag, you go to prison for 1 year.
This happened to a guy, right?
Yes, within hours, a man burned a flag outside the White House and was arrested and taken away. And now Trump is trying to make it so he goes to prison for a year. Newsflash: the Supreme Court has routinely and on multiple precedents has stated that it is legal, that it is a legal act of protest to burn a flag. That is a legal act of protest that was decided by the U.S. Supreme Court. That is precedent. And Donald Trump's executive action is literally illegal. To do that is illegal, and he's not going to... Now, granted, they're now going to take this, is going to have to go back to the Supreme Court again to redecide all these precedents, because they're just testing everything. They're seeing what can they get overturned. It is immensely frustrating to me to see this disregard for the rule of law. I also just want to say to everyone out there, though, don't take the bait on this. And by don't take the bait, I mean don't go burning flags. There's a reason he did this. It's because he wants you to go burn flags so that he can say, look at these crazy leftists, they hate America. That's what he wants.
It looks really bad on media to burn flags.
It's a terrible look you are protected in the First Amendment to be able to do this as an act of protest. That doesn't mean you should do it. Right now, it is more harmful than it is helpful. It is exactly what he wants. He wants to see people doing this, which is why he signed this. It's not like there's some sort of crisis about flag burning that he was reacting to. He has created this crisis. He has created this crisis because he wants you to burn flags so that he can say, look at these angry liberals. They're out in the streets, these woke people. I need to send the National Guard in. I need to control these cities, which is exactly what he wants to do, and it's what he's planning to do. And we are already on the brink of constitutional crisis. So please.
On the brink? Jeez. I thought we were already beyond the brink.
Well, we're on the brink of an even worse constitutional crisis if he tries to send the National Guard into Chicago or into Baltimore and the governors refuse to allow them in. What is going to happen? What is actually going to happen? I don't know. If he tries to send National Guardsmen from other states in, I mean, he did it in California, but he did it with certain National Guardsmen that he does have control over. We're talking about potentially a situation, if he were to do it in Maryland, where the governor might put out the National Guard to protect the state from other National Guardsmen from other states. Like, we're in a serious crisis right now, and he is looking for any excuse to declare martial law because he wants to declare martial law and stay in power as long as possible. He wants to. If it goes to Trump, they're trying to rig the midterms. They're trying to gerrymander their way out of the midterms. They're not going to be able to do it. I swear that they're not going to be able to do it well enough to save them from the voters that are coming. So he may declare martial law and say we're canceling this election, and then we're in a new level of constitutional crisis with this man. So this is where we are right now. Don't fall for this stuff, but also understand that the law does not protect you in the United States the way that it did 1 year ago today. I hate to say that, but the law does not protect any of us in the same way that it did a year ago today, because we have a government that does not care about the Constitution, does not care about the laws. They care about what they can use laws for. They don't care what they were initiated for. They care about how they can be used, and they're using them as weapons. And they are weaponizing the weaknesses of our Constitution and our republic against us. If that sounds like an overreaction and a fire alarm, me ringing the alarm bells, yeah, it is. I'm shouting fire in a crowded theater. I am.
Because there's a fire.
Because there's a fire. There's a legitimate fire. It is blazing.
This is no longer the boy who called wolf.
No.
The wolf is in front of us.
Yes.
And he is about to pounce. And we're trying to warn you.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people are trying to warn you. But you have to listen. And it's so funny, like all these things, all of our agenda items are linked so terrifyingly well, because you're talking about Trump's expectation of there to be civil disobedience. He's making flag burning a form of civil disobedience so that when we do it, it can be considered civil disobedience and an illegal act. And what did we just see? An executive order that came through 2 days ago on August 25th, in which he is now ordering the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, white nationalist, white supremacist, borderline Nazi, probably, to create and begin training a specialized unit within the District of Columbia National Guard to ensure public safety, as he says, to assist local law enforcement in quelling civil disturbances and ensuring the public safety and order whenever the circumstances necessitate as appropriate under law. I'm reading that verbatim from his executive order. He is creating a specialized task force that are going to take directions directly from Secretary of Defense Hegseth right now, or whoever's in that position, with the express direction and some secret training that we're not going to know or be privy to handle civil disobedience. I don't want to speculate as to what that might look like, what they might be trained to do. I have theories, very scary ones. I'm not going to go and, start speculating on these things, but it is certainly something to consider when you're linking all these things together, right? He is trying to manufacture these crises. He's creating more opportunities for crises to pop up. He is starting fires, hoping that someone jumps on top of the fire and starts a whole big old fit. And then he can point to it and say, all right, I've started the fire. I'm waiting for these people to jump on the bait. While I'm doing that, I'm creating a specialized task force that's going to be trained in some secret special way that they're apparently not already trained to do, to answer these crises, these riots or whatever he's going to call them. And what that's going to look like, I'm scared to speculate, but I think we can all kind of have an idea of what that might look like.
I'll speculate. I mean, that's the next step in this. Just people disappearing. We have gotten accustomed to the idea now of black and brown people who are not born in this country disappearing. And before you know it, we're going to start to get accustomed to just other people just disappearing. There
have been people thrown in vans that we, to this date, no idea what happened to them.
Yeah, we don't know where they went.
They're quite literal missing persons.
Yes, they are missing people who were picked up by supposedly the government. We have no idea because no one's showing badges.
No, and they're an unmarked random. They're literally this is indistinguishable from a random private citizen's white van.
Yes, and
indistinguishable.
He has successfully normalized the idea of having the military in the streets. This is what he wanted to do. This is absolutely part of a plan. And I'm terrified of what this is leading to. And this is as bad as what we predicted it would be, if not worse. And it's moving quickly. The President of the United States, the current president, has only been president for roughly 8 months. He has 3+ more years. Question mark. To continue to do damage to all of our institutions. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do about it? And what can we do about it? Question. Look, everyone is frantically trying to look for answers. The reality is you need to be taking care of your families right now. I'm going to go back to the same thing I said back when he got elected, and there were plenty of you that rolled your eyes about this. I already know that. Several who reached out to me at the time. You need to have an exit strategy. You need to have a plan. You need to understand that the United States that we have lived in and we have enjoyed the comfort and safety of, and the privileges that existed in that country for decades among decades, is no more. We have entered a different phase. I am still not saying that we are in, fascist Germany, Nazi Germany, or communist Russia. It's not what we're saying. But the protections that you could believe in and the institutions that you could believe in for so long in the United States are no longer without cause for concern or questioning. And so understanding what is the best way to be able to protect your family and protect your friends and protect those close to you is important. And so all those things that we talked about 10 months ago, 9 months ago, back when we were giving kind of the cause for concern and how to prepare for the Trump administration, we're into that phase now. If you ignored it then, you really shouldn't ignore it now. That's how I feel. I genuinely feel that we're in a new state here, and that things are accelerating at a speed in which I'm not comfortable with. I was not comfortable with any of this, but I'm really, really uncomfortable with what we're going through right now and what the administration is doing. And so,
has it reached a point where, because I know you more than anyone that I know, had the biggest, fear of what realistic fear of what Trump can do prior to the election. Has he met or exceeded your expectations?
He is behind on legislative, and he is ahead on everything else. So I don't think he's had the legislative wins that I assumed he would have, pushing some things through. He has. I mean, he got his big beautiful bill nonsense pushed through, and he has done several things. What I predicted was that he would do something that he would use Congress as a means of getting rid of elections or altering elections. It appears that his frustration with his inability to do that in Congress has led him to say, I'm going to do it through other means, which means he's certainly looking more towards the idea of declaring martial law and just trying to cancel an election rather than make it so he just keeps winning an election. He's trying multiple different things, but I would have thought he would have been further along on that path than he is, but he's catching up. On all the other things that he's done, the things that don't require Congress, he is well ahead in terms of how bad it has gotten and how aggressively he has used the powers of government. And so, yeah, I'm terrified. I am. I'm actually terrified. In the first Trump administration, it was largely talk, and he pissed himself off so much. He got so frustrated by things. He got into so many spats with people that he couldn't stay on message. He couldn't get things done. That's not happening. Y'all have noticed he's not getting sidetracked. He is a much more effective governor of the country now than he was in his first term, and it's because he doesn't give a shit. He does not care about the laws. He does not care about any of the restrictions.
Well, he has a Supreme Court, which he didn't have the first term.
He has a Supreme Court that is even more firmly in his corner. He also has people around him who don't care about these things. He does not have normal individuals. There is no one there to restrain him. Stephen Miller is essentially the shadow president of this country right now. Stephen Miller is a noted white nationalist. All of this should be terrifying to you, and I don't think we're talking about it enough because we're so exhausted. This has been going on for so long. We have war weariness. If you look up the term war weariness, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Historically, that is actually relating to the public's kind of exhaustion with war. That's what we have with Trump. We have Trump weariness. We are so tired of the political fighting that we are becoming apathetic. And that didn't work out well for Israel. I can assure you of that, when they allowed their far-right government to take over. And we've seen what has happened the last couple of years in Israel as a result of that. And the way that they've treated Palestinians in Gaza, of course. But that's not the only thing that has happened. We should be clear. This is very troubling, and I am. I try to be somewhat optimistic about things. I have talked about how I feel like legislatively, democracy may be able to survive. I am not sure about whether it can survive through the legal challenges and through the executive branch just declaring that elections shouldn't happen. I'm not sure. I don't know if I believe that we can get through this martial law thing. And you know who said this the other day? Literally Hillary Clinton. She said that that's what's coming. And I don't think she's wrong. You can like Hillary Clinton, you can hate Hillary Clinton, whatever you want, but I don't think she's wrong that he sees the martial law tactic as his best shot at avoiding any sort of repercussions or allowing the country to swing back to Democrats being in power.
It feels like the more, and this is the kind of thing where it's so frustrating because he is neutering us in a lot of ways. He's neutering our response, our ability to respond. Obviously we will always advocate for a peaceful response to anything any government does, because that's in the nature of our show. That's in the nature of our message. He is continuously neutering all of our options for doing that. He's neutering our ability to protest by making all these like weird like things illegal, by weaponizing the National Guard, militarizing certain big cities, and instilling fear tactics to ensure that we don't throw sandwiches at them. But the reality is he's also neutering our ability to respond more physically, which again, we're not advocating for. But he is also, very carefully ensuring that if that were to somehow happen in some way, he is prepared to respond, and he'll respond with 50 times as much force. That's not the reason we shouldn't be violent or be or start throwing shit. We shouldn't do that anyway. But if you needed another reason why we shouldn't do that, it's because if we do, we're dead. That's frankly the truth. If we do that, if we lose our cool, we're dead. We're going to be shot. We're going to get gunned the fuck down if that happens.
Yeah, let's be clear. Senator Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan asked the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, asked him point blank, have you ever been asked by the President of the United States to shoot unarmed protesters? For authorization to shoot unarmed protesters. She asked him 3 times. He would not answer the question. That speaks volumes. Whether or not the answer was yes or no, the fact that he won't answer the question is an answer. It means that he wants you to think the answer is potentially, yes, I have been asked that. And she, who has served abroad, she's served in the military, she said to him, she was like, I just want you to answer this one question. She was visibly frustrated. Just please answer this one question. It should be very easy to answer. Because President Donald Trump did ask the former defense secretary to use gunfire as a means of controlling protesters, unarmed protesters. And that former defense secretary, James Mattis, refused. Wrote this in his book. So, I believe it was Mattis. Either way, this is a deeply disturbing time. And I'm sorry that we don't have better news to share with you all, but you need to know what's going on, and you need to know how serious this is. We are in an absolute crisis state in this country. And you're not going to hear us every week talking all gloom and doom about the world, because we can't. We just can't. We can't do that. We can't do that every week. We are going to try and bring you, as much optimism about things as we can. But this is serious. And I hope you are taking it seriously, those of you who are listening. So, on a less serious topic, well, I shouldn't say that. It's a very serious, to me, as someone who loves Cracker Barrel. But I do. I'm not even kidding. I love Cracker Barrel, and I do. I have no shame about that. I think it's fantastic.
I have never been to a Cracker Barrel.
He's never been to a Cracker Barrel. He's never lived in a place where they exist. And I love Cracker Barrel. My mother loved it. My grandmother loved it. And before you're like, it's not even so. It is Southern food, for the record. It is Southern food of a certain era. My grandmother was from Georgia. She was an unbelievable Southern cook. She grew up in the Depression. I still use her recipe book to this day. She was an incredible cook. She loved Cracker Barrel. She loved it. Not because it's high quality, any of that. It's because it's familiar to us. It is very familiar, and it definitely is nostalgic to me. It's of road trips, driving to the South as a kid, driving to Disney World, driving to Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, it was, I remember my mother had the map. She had the Cracker Barrel map, and my mom, as I've said before, was very unwell. She could barely even, she was not driving, but she could barely even read the map. She'd be in the passenger seat, and she'd have it upside down, trying to figure out where the closest Cracker Barrel was, because we had to go. So it's nostalgic for me. And it's nostalgic for a lot of people, which I think explains some of the outrage when Cracker Barrel announced that it was going to go to this hideous new logo that it was going to use, that makes it look like a Denny's. And it's this hideous new logo that they decided they were going to use. But then, of course, the outrage came. And the outrage came, and that was from the right, who said that Cracker Barrel was going woke. That was their claim, was that Cracker Barrel, of all places, is going woke because they decide to change their logo.
How dare you remove your guy on barrel?
Yeah, how dare you remove the old man by the barrel. It's so silly. But anyway, Trump weighed in on it. Apparently, Cracker Barrel CEO called the White House to be like, thank you for your feedback. Whatever. They have since rescinded it. As of last night, they have decided they're going to stay with the old man by the barrel. They're not going to be doing this. It's so funny. I told you, Tyler, the other day, I went into Cracker Barrel because, of course, they're talking about it, and it made me want it. So I went in.
Great marketing.
And it worked. The person in front of me was talking to the poor host and was like, you guys are going to do the change? Tell the company the customers don't want it. And I was just like, oh my goodness. Here we are. This is the world we live in. For the record, Cracker Barrel didn't do this because they were going woke.
Of course not.
Yeah.
They did it the same reason that every other company has been changing their logos to be some stupid wash of gray, brown, white, or black, with very generic, shapes instead of creative looking cool stuff. And it's because it's business. It's business. It's because they own the land that their building's on, and it makes it easier to sell the fucking building. It's easier to sell a building that looks like a generic building than it is to sell a building that looks like it can only be a Taco Bell. It's the same reason. Cracker Barrel is the same thing for the same reason. They're doing it to a lesser degree, which is why they're probably able to rescind it. But be straight like that. It's a business choice for purely business purposes. Do I agree with it? No, it's terrible. It looks awful. It's ugly. It takes away the personality of the establishment that I've never been inside, but you can just look at it and see the personality, eke out of it. But the same thing happened when McDonald's changed their buildings. Same reason.
Yeah, golden arches to Starbucks Bistro.
Right. The same reason. Yeah. Same thing with Taco Bell. And Taco Bell used to be awesome looking, weird place that looked like it was just existed only in the 90s, the awesome, weird colorations, to very generic building. What else? Pizza Hut, same thing. When they had that really cool roof that was the same as their logo. But the reality is from a business perspective, you can't sell that to anybody else but a Pizza Hut. So they're like, we have to change this because if we have to sell it, then we want to open our possibilities and sell it to anybody. So they changed it to look like a normal building, so they can, so anyone can occupy that space. That's the reality of it, guys. That's the truth. Literally, it is not woke. This is not a political move. It's not a political statement. It's just business. It's just business, guys. And the fact that they changed it back is because
it's also business. People are like, oh, they're capitulating to Trump. No, they're not. They're capitulating to the fact that their fan base, including myself, who is no fan of Donald Trump, was like, this is stupid. You're taking away the thing that makes you...
And they're more affected by their fan base. They're more affected by their fan base than a Starbucks or a Pizza Hut or a Denny's or any other company that's done this in the past 30 years. Those companies can do that, and people can outrage, and people are still going to go to Pizza Hut or Taco Bell or whatever. The people are still going to go there because they're big and they're what they are. But Cracker Barrel is more regional,
It's regional. It's also, the brand was built on nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
The brand of the restaurant was built on nostalgia. And I understand why the company needs to change. And it has changed significantly. It sells alcohol now. That's a big thing. It was not... Yeah, I know that's crazy, but it's you have to understand like that was not a thing at Cracker Barrel. Like Cracker Barrel was your like local country. It's a country store with super cheap food. The idea that you would go there and have like brunch or something like that with mimosas was a crazy thing, and so that's just a foreign thing to many people. But Cracker Barrel is having issues. One of the major issues is people don't road trip anymore. People fly their kids now in a way that they didn't 30 years ago. People fly their kids to Disney World rather than drive. My mother was terrified of flying. We drove to Disney World and we drove south. That was a thing, and we would stop at Cracker Barrels en route on the trip. That was just a thing that we did. And so it was very much like a road trip spot. It's also the fact that, and the biggest challenge they have is that their clientele base is older. It just is. I mean, if I go into a Cracker Barrel, I'm one of the younger people in that establishment almost immediately. I can see it. Other than potentially people bringing their kids, and the funny thing is, like Saturday and Sunday mornings, there's lines. There's always lines at Cracker Barrel, but it's the rest of the week that they are not making the money. And that's and as such, there's there are challenges with that, but the reality is they're trying to attract younger generations who are obviously not on the surface interested in Cracker Barrel, because the younger generation now does not have the same sort of nostalgic attachment to the likes and dislikes of their parents that we did, that many of us did, and I see that in my students. I asked yesterday in my class of students, I asked what they knew about the 1960s. They knew nothing. That's okay. That's further along behind. It's not.
Is it okay, Jesse?
It's not.
You didn't seem okay about it yesterday.
I did ask, what I asked for their favorite musical artist from before 2000, which is just a couple of years before all of these students were born. And they had the toughest time answering that question. Someone said Rihanna. It's not an artist from pre-2000. Like, even the ones that they did say were generally like cuspers, like late 90s into 2000s. Like, when you and I were kids, when you and I were in college, you could have asked us that question about, like, pre-1980, and we could have given an answer. We could have given you an answer pre-1985 or any of that. Like,
we could give you an answer pre-fucking 60s if we wanted to. Well, that's more because we knew that stuff. But yeah, I get what you mean. We had more of an attachment, and it seems that parents were passing down more of their interests at that point in time than they are now. And that's similar with Cracker Barrel. I guarantee you it's the same sort of thing. It's just like they're not... kids are not picking up, and I think some of that is social media, some of that is like the iPad phase. It's just the technology that's available to them. Kids are not picking up the interests of their parents nearly as much, or valuing the interests of their parents now in a way that they did as recently as 10, 20 years ago. And so we're seeing changes on that front. But this was not a woke thing. It had nothing to do with politics. And that's the funny thing. I keep seeing people on the left now being like, oh, once a bunch of redneck hicks, and always a bunch of redneck hicks. Okay, fine, whatever. If you really just... I don't think you've ever been in a Cracker Barrel. This person who posted that, by the way. But, like... who cares? Who cares? Like, why? This is not a political thing. On the right or the left, this is not a political thing. It was a business decision, and it was a bad one, and it was stupid. And now it's done. And we've talked about it in the news now for what? Like 4 days? It's the most I've heard people talking about Cracker Barrel in my entire life. Like, literally my entire life. I mean, if you had told me that we'd be talking about Cracker Barrel, I'd be thrilled. I would have assumed, that it was because they were expanding or something. Please. No, apparently it's because of the stupid logo. Hey, I would love a Cracker Barrel on the West Coast.
Yeah,
I would go.
They can't afford to offer those prices. That's part of the issue. It genuinely is. They can't be in super urban areas because they can't afford the prices. They tried. Cracker Barrel actually tried to do. They had Cracker Barrel kitchens they had one in Hollywood that opened during the pandemic, and it was for only for takeout, and it was like Cracker Barrel like menu light that you could get sent. It just didn't work. It just wasn't the same because people go to Cracker Barrel for partially for the experience, but also for the cost. And if you are offering a plate of pancakes for, $18.99, that's not it's not an especially appealing thing to people who like Cracker Barrel. Like, that thing should be $11 most, like tops. Anyway, all right. Well, that's a much nicer thing to end on than the depressing state of our democracy. But
it's frustrating in a way that's more, fun.
yes, more fun. Yes. Let's move on to things we should all agree on. Tyler, you want to start or you want me to start?
I'll actually start because it's kind of bouncing off of something that you just said about
Great.
Kids and the absence of their knowledge of anything before the year 2000. And I'm going to give a quick and dirty, I'm going to do a quick things we can all agree on here. My thing is for young parents like myself, you got like toddlers and stuff, 2 years old or around there. Introduce them to musical instruments as early as you can. Even if you don't play them, and it doesn't have to be like a $3,000 piano, or anything like that. Like literally like kids' instruments, or just buy a kazoo or something. Kids pick up on it really quickly. And that's again, if you are not a musician, if you don't know how to play, it doesn't matter. Obviously, my wife and I are both musicians. We've been musicians our whole lives. So, we, whip out our piano and we're playing stuff and he loves it and he goes and he tries to, tinker on it. But, even without us playing, he goes on it and he loves just sitting there and, pounding the keys down. He loves, going to, I have, an old snare drum on the floor here that I just have there, just lying down on the floor. And he goes up to it multiple times a day, grabs the drumsticks and just bangs on it for a little bit. And without me, and I'm not I can drum, but I'm not a crazy good drummer or anything like that. But it's not like I'm teaching him how to drum. He's teaching himself, He goes up to it randomly and he just goes, and he's I can sense his rhythm getting better. He's just naturally learning a rhythm, just banging on the drum, which is super cool to see. Because again, that's not me teaching him, this is rhythm, Owen, da-da-da-da. He's just learning it on his own because the instrument exists in his space. And he has the ability to just go play it whenever he wants. And it amazes me how quickly kids at that age, literally under 2 years old, can learn things on their own. I'm not teaching them how to play piano or drums or any of the wind instruments that he has, that we have, that he likes to play on, little recorders and stuff like that. He just is learning. Today, before he went to daycare, he had finally learned how to blow into the recorder to make an actual sound, as opposed to humming into it, right, or using your voice. And you can see the joy on his face. He was like, "Oh, that was correct," and he got really excited and started doing it a bunch. And I'm like, you learn that all on your own. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. So things we should all agree on. Young parents, throw instruments at your kids and just watch them tinker with it. Even if you don't have to play, you don't have to know how to play a damn thing. But they will learn. And it's great. I mean, Montessori schools and teachers will tell you this. Instrumentation and music is good for kids at a super young age. It's true, dude. It's true. Try it out. Get a cheap instrument, put it in front of him or her, your child, and watch them go to town. It's great. It's great for them. Great for their brain development. Highly recommend.
That's fantastic. Yes, please, please, please. We need more musicians. And even, again, as you said, even if they don't pick it up and end up pursuing becoming a musician or learning an instrument, learning the basics of that, it can be very rewarding for them. I mean,
because their brain is moving, right? They're learning something, even if it's not something that is going to amount to anything. It doesn't matter. The fact that they are teaching themselves a skill is already crazy good development that a child needs.
How cool!
Yeah, super rad,
That's
man.
Awesome. Good for Owen, by the way. What a cool.
I'm proud. I'm like, I'm like, hell yeah, man.
What a
Keep going,
cool
bro.
kid. He's such a cool kid. Anyway, my things we should all agree on. The people who hate Taylor Swift have officially...
Oh.
Yep.
I was
It's
wondering
coming.
when this would
Yeah,
come
we
up.
had to bring it up. The people who hate Taylor Swift have officially become more annoying than the Swifties. And I don't say that lightly, because I also find
That was a high bar.
many Swifties to be exhausting, though I do have to tread lightly on this because my soon-to-be wife is a Swiftie. So let me be clear in saying that it's hashtag not all Swifties. But the ones who showed up en masse to the Chiefs practice field when she started dating Travis Kelce, yeah, that's fucking weird. That's fucking weird. Speaking of Kelce, though, he and Taylor Swift announced their engagement this past week. I'm sure you have heard about it unless you're living under a rock. And almost immediately, the anti-Swift brigade kicked into overdrive. You've seen them. Maybe you haven't, and I hope you haven't, but I certainly have. They're on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, group chats. They're talking about her endlessly, ironically in the same exact way that they accuse her fans of doing. Congratulations. You have become what you hate. I think it's time to give her a break. Actually, it's past time to give her a break. Let's be real about what Taylor Swift has been through as a human being. And I'm not sitting here saying that we need to be playing some small violin for her. But this woman was slut-shamed through most of her 20s for behaving in a way that literally does not raise an eyebrow when a man does it. Example, Pete Davidson. If anything, Pete Davidson is hailed as some sort of fucking national folk hero or something for every time he gets a new girlfriend.
It's a joke
it's a running,
because he's haha
yeah,
funny
it's
guy.
a joke.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. No one ever was like, look at this, look at this guy. Oh, why can't he keep a girl? Whatever.
What a whore,
right?
right?
Nobody does that with Pete Davidson, okay? But Taylor Swift dates like 6 guys in a decade, and she was like, the biggest slut ever. It's a horrible thing. And why was that? Why was there such a focus on it? Because she had the audacity to write songs about it? Newsflash, she's a songwriter. That's literally her job. And here's the thing. Overall, Taylor Swift has grown into a pretty good role model. She has created a brilliant global brand. She has tapped in, whether you understand it or not, and I don't always understand it, she has tapped into the hearts of millions and millions of young women around this globe in particular. And yes, they do all tend to fit, or I shouldn't say all, but many of them do tend to fit one specific demographic. But she's done that in a very not toxic, not harmful way.
And her music reflects that too. I think
her music does
unlike
reflect
a
that.
lot of big artists that eventually have to cater to a more adult audience and write songs that are more adult in nature, like content-wise, she kind of has been able to avoid that. And her messaging has been pretty, even like the songs like Bad Blood that are less about, lovey-dovey stuff and more kind of like, dare I say angry, they're not like bad songs. Like, and I mean bad, not like quality bad, but I mean like they're not like bad songs for like a young person to listen to. Like all of her songs are very appropriate. They all have broadly good messaging and consistent messaging, I should say. And, none of them... And she's maintained like that her content has always been for like all ages and stuff like that in terms of like the content, and that should be applauded. Like a lot of people are like, oh, all her songs sound the same, and I used to kind of think that too. I think pre-eras, I used to think that a lot. Like her music did sound very samey, but there is. I look at it now like there is a appeal to that, and there is something about that that is good when you think about consistency in branding and consistency in messaging.
Yeah, and I just don't care whether her music sounds the same. There's a lot of artists that just, Dave Matthews.
And I think now it doesn't.
Yeah.
Now she's brought in a lot of her like musical
I agree.
writing, but
I agree. I think, nobody really rails and it gets angry about Dave Matthews writing the same 3 songs for the last 35 years. Apparently I do. And I will. That's fine. We'll even the scale here a little bit. But look, more than the music, she pays her employees well. She gives the people that worked on her tour 6-figure bonuses. She spreads the wealth. I know people who have worked both for her as well as for other artists, some other very, very big name competitive artists. It's not even close in the way that they were treated. She sticks up for artists against corporations. She quietly, this is, like, she goes under the table. She does not try to make a big deal out of this. She donates to food banks in every city she tours in. She shows empathy. She uses her platform for good way more often than she has to. So is she full of herself? Does she love being in front of a camera? Of course she does.
Who doesn't,
She's
man?
Taylor Swift. She's the most popular pop star on the planet. What do you expect her to be humble about it? Are her fans obsessive? Yes, it's weird. It's culty. You know what else is culty? Politics. Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump. Pick your idol. People treat them the exact same way. It's a human thing, not a Taylor Swift thing, and I don't like any of that. But, so, you don't have to like her music. You don't have to join the cult. But this compulsive need that some people have to hate her, it's really boring. It's really predictable. And honestly, it's annoying as fuck. Too cool to hate Taylor Swift, no longer cool. Like, if you're still out there hammering on about how overrated she is, I hate to break it to you, but you've officially become more annoying than the Swifties. That's what I have to say. I hope that she's happy. Looks like she has a very healthy relationship with Travis Kelce. They seem like really nice people. If I'm being honest, they seem like really good, decent people who live a pretty decent life, and they're good role models. And, he's a good role model for masculinity. I'm thrilled with that. They can say, oh, she's got him by the balls. I don't think so. Like, I really don't think that that's true. He loves her. She loves him. She's learned all about football. He's learned all about her music. That's a healthy relationship to me. You learn about new things. Your partner is bringing new stuff into your life. So shut the fuck up. Just stop. Leave her alone. I'm spewing here. The monologue is over. I'm done. Like, I'm just tired of it. And so, can we please, stop with the hate? It's unnecessary. You spend so much time angry about her showing up for 35 seconds on a football broadcast. You know how much football is actually played? How many, if you actually look at the minutes of actual football being played in a game, it's on average 12 minutes. 12 minutes! Of a 2 to 3 hour broadcast, 12 minutes is actual plays on the field. So, there's plenty of other things that are shown regularly. There's bullshit that we see. You see the same freaking Coors Light ad 5 times. Way more than you see Taylor Swift on screen. So, I just don't care.
You know what nobody ever complains about?
What's that?
Seeing Jack Nicholson at a Laker game.
Yeah, nobody ever complains. Nobody complains. Oh, Jack.
Despite the fact that he has been at every single one since, forever. Yes. As long as I've been alive, I think.
Or Spike Lee at New York Knicks games, Yeah. Nobody cares. She's a freaking fan of her soon-to-be husband. It's great. Good for her. It's good for the game. It's good for the Chiefs. I just don't understand why we have to be so obsessed with hatred in this country of everything. We just have to have a strong opinion about everything. We have to be so angry. Please stop. Stop with the hate. Stop with the hate of Taylor Swift. You don't have to like her. Just leave her alone. That's what I got for you.
It's the new Leave Britney Alone, I guess.
It should be. Leave
I've
Taylor
never
alone.
I've never heard you say so many positive things about Taylor Swift like in one sitting before. I have a feeling like if I turn your camera around, it's just gonna be like your fiance with a gun to your head.
Yeah, she's gonna be. No. You know what? Honest to God, it's a frustration that I have with it. Like, look, we talk about Taylor Swift, and I had to listen to way too much Taylor Swift when we moved across the country, way too much, in the car as we moved across the country a couple of years back. But
my wife got so obsessed with Bad Blood when it came out that I
Yeah.
think we listened to that thing like so many times every week. Jesus Christ! It was like every time we got in the
Look.
car, she was like, "Can I play Bad Blood like once?" I'm like, "Fine, okay." I'm like, I didn't hate the song, but I was like, oh god, it's a lot.
I don't love her music. I don't hate her music. I don't,
It's fine.
Yes,
Yeah.
does she rhyme car with bar all the time? Yes, she does. She absolutely does. That's real. But, I said this to somebody the other day who was one of those people who's just fucking railing about Taylor Swift, and car with bar, and I was like,
As if he's some
okay.
lyricist, right?
Right. He's a musician, whatever. But I'm like, come on, like, you just are sitting there. Like, I compared it to the Beatles. I was like, the Beatles didn't start with Let It Be or Hey Jude or Strawberry Fields Forever. The Beatles started with Love, Love Me Do, You Know I Love You, I'll Always Be True, So Please Love Me Do. Not exactly the most lyrically genius song, but that was the first song they played when they came to the United States. So I'm telling you, like, sometimes you have to do the red label stuff, the red label Johnny Walker, to allow you to do the black label Johnny Walker. Like, sometimes you just have to do it. That's a quote from the film American Fiction, or a bastardized quote from the film American Fiction. If you haven't seen it, great movie, but it also rings true.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. As someone who never cared for Taylor Swift and still don't really, I don't listen to her or anything like that, but I agree with everything you said about her character and about her person, and I do think her music's just fine. I will say one thing. I think when you look at toxicity, especially on the internet, which, we've talked about this before, it exists, it will always exist, because people are braver behind a computer screen than they ever will be in person. Take like 90% of these people who like bash Taylor Swift or call her a whore or whatever other ugly thing on the internet, if I looked them dead in the eye and said, repeat that to my face, they would never. They'd be like, oh, she's fine. And they would walk, and they would turn around because they're fucking weak. And they're like wimps, because that's those people are.
They're also angry that they can't get a Swiftie to like them.
That is true, yeah.
I say that as a joke, but that's certainly true for some people.
They have to, most of them have to go touch grass. That's certainly true. Mm-hmm. I think the funny thing about hate, especially internet hate for popular things, not just like Taylor Swift, but anything that's popular, right? I always think back to, I always think of just Newton, Newton's third law. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. It's the same thing here. When you have a person with as massive of a fan base and a following and momentum, cultural impact as Taylor Swift, which is pretty unprecedented. I mean, this is insane, right? Like her following. Of course, it's going to create an equal and opposite reaction. It's going to create a group of people who want to hate as strongly as the people who like, because it validates them. It validates them to hate something because they feel heard, and they get to like whine about it, and people get to talk about them on podcasts and on television, and that's the only time they'll ever get people to fucking pay attention to them, blah, 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 blah. So I'm kind of like, yeah, I think Taylor Swift does it best where it's like, ignore them. She doesn't need to address these people. She doesn't need to ever blink at these freaking people on the internet, Like, just do your thing, T Swift. Do your thing. Ignore the rabble. They will always be there. They're not going to go away.
Shake it off.
Yeah, exactly. Just shake it off.
Just shake it off.
But I don't think anyone can deny the impact she's had on global culture, especially in America, but globally as well.
When we look back, she will have brought so much more joy to this world than than annoyance. Like, so
It's so
much
true.
more. It
It's
won't
so true.
even be close. If you really look at the impact that she will have had on the world, she will have brought more joy to more people than so many other people.
And I do have, you're absolutely right. And I do have one thing to say specifically about her music, because I know a lot of people that I speak to who don't like Taylor Swift, like actively do not like her. It's
Yeah.
like they bring up a musical argument. Like, well, her songs are not written well. Like, it's like, come on, it's 3 chords on a guitar a million times over, and she sells platinum records. And it's like, yeah, there's some modicum of truth to that.
Yes,
Especially
there
her
is.
early stuff. And I personally, I'm not a big fan of singer-songwriter songs either. I will admit to that. My wife loves it. I'm not crazy about that. I like full bands. I like percussion. That's just a personal thing. That has nothing to do with the quality of her music. That's just a personal preference. I think a lot of people have to like get in their head that them saying her music's bad, like, you just don't like it, and that's okay. You don't have to like it, but you have to be honest with yourself that you not liking something does not mean it's bad. Yeah. And you can't say, because I don't like it and I'm a musician, I know my shit, that makes it bad. No, it just means you don't like it. Yep. Dude, like, there's only one piece of music that will ever be objectively the worst thing ever, and that's John Cage, 433. Talked about this months ago. I'll never let it go. That is an atrocious piece of garbage, and everyone should agree with me. But
I love it. I'm going to go listen to it right now.
Yeah, listen to your silence. Tell me how much you enjoy that 4 minutes of fucking nothing. Anyway, but back to Taylor Swift. I think to people who make the musical argument, I think it's important to note that music is always a product of its time. When you talk about popularity, right? And pop music. Like, pop, yes, it's kind of a genre now. I've had this argument with my wife so many times over so many years. She says pop's a genre. I'm like, no, pop literally means popular. It's what's popular now. And pop back then was what's popular at that time. It's an argument of the time in which it came out. There's an argument there, I know. She has good points on why it's a specific genre, but I digress. Her music is popular now, right? It's going to be, and if we fast forward 50 years, 100 years, we're going to go back and say she was the largest musician of her time.
Yes.
And that her music is going to be, it's going to be remembered like a Beatles of this time. Frankly, that's just what it's going to be. That you might hate that fucking take, but that's honestly, it's going to be the truth. She is going to be a Beatles-esque symbol in 50 or 100 years. Not now, because now she's just popular. She will be reminded, she will be thought of that way when she's long gone, just like the Beatles were. Beatlemania.
For solo artists, she is up there with Elvis, Michael Jackson, and you're going to have to put Beyonce in there. Beyonce, Taylor Swift. I mean, those are the superstars. We're not talking about, there are plenty of great solo artists. We're not talking even about the best. We're talking about most popular. Yeah. She's up in the top 5 solo artists.
And I can tell these people how wrong they are, because that's what it's going to be like. People, like, we look at the Beatles fondly because it's a classic thing. It's the old. And we always like, we put so much on a pedestal that's old, right? We love to glorify the old times. We love it. We're nostalgia fucking fiends, If it's
because we also know that things existed before we were born. But.
Yeah, well, if this were, that's true. If this were like Dune, then like nostalgia is like our spice. We're like addicted to it and shit. I'm full of references today. I don't know why. But like, that's because I'm reading Dune right now.
So many nerdy references. It's the nerd seeping through the screen.
I know, as if it's not like in full. As if it's not always in full show. But anyway, like, we're gonna look at Swifties in the future the same way we look at Beatlemania now.
That's a great point. It's absolutely great.
And you people will hate to say that because right now they don't want to put something that's glorified like the Beatles, the pinnacle, like the start of the revolution of rock and roll, all these things, right? They don't want to put that on the same. They don't want to put something like Taylor Swift at the same ranking of the Beatles because it invalidates their nostalgia. It invalidates what they see as the best, which is in the past, because the past is always the best. And like the same way, like a lot of millennials look at the 90s and say that was the greatest time in the history of ever. And I'm like, not really. It was great. It was cool, but
I mean, that's when the civil rights movement happened, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. It was the greatest.
According to
listen, I was a kid. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, the civil rights was clearly at the same time as Pearl Jam and Nirvana. Right,
Yes.
they were civil rights
And
advocates.
Bill Clinton was a cil rights president.
Yeah, he was on a saxophone in the White House lawn,
Yes.
busting out his civil rights jazz. That's ridiculous. But no, it's true. It's like, come on, guys. Like, stop. Take off the glasses. Stop with the nostalgia bait. Like, it's okay to admit that we have artists now that are going to be remembered as fondly as, if not more fondly than, classic artists that we glorify today.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. And I'm saying
Just
this as a
deal with
classic
it.
rock nerd.
I'm a huge classic rock guy.
Yeah, I used to be like, Led Zeppelin's the greatest rock band of all time, and no one will ever touch it. It's like, the reality is, no, man, music progresses. Music develops. Music...
I'm an Elvis Presley fan like times 1,000. The idea that I can put Elvis Presley, Michael Jackson, Taylor Swift, Beyonce in the same discussion. As a child, I would have been, like when Taylor Swift was first becoming big, I would have been horribly offended by that. I'm a grown-up. I'm a realist. We can acknowledge that is true when you're looking at solo artists. Like, she's in the discussion. I don't know how you could not, at this point, with the amount of success she's had, I don't know how you could not have that discussion. So grow up.
I'll tell you why.
Who cares?
Because she's not dead.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's why.
I guess
because she's still relevant in the current, society, and she's not someone that we can look at with fondness or with nostalgia. That's reality. Beyonce kind of like an outlier, I think, because she's just she is seen like that, like now, even though she's still obviously
she's seen
like
alive. She's dead.
No. She's seen. She's thought of very fondly and
she
very
is.
much like one of the greats. Which
she's
she is.
revered, but Beyonce is not as in your face, which I think, there is inherently a war between Beyonce fans and Taylor Swift fans because she targets different people. Each one of them target a different audience. They've both been unquestionably incredibly successful for a very long period of time. But they run in different circles. And so, but I love that. I think that's great for music.
Yeah.
I think it's great for culture.
It's very great for music.
And it's great that
kidding?
that it's women. We have two amazingly gifted women in very different ways. I think that, from a musical perspective, Beyonce is infinitely more talented than Taylor Swift. But Taylor Swift, from a lyrical perspective and from being able to target an audience and figure out her audience, and as a performer, unbelievable. I mean, they're both incredible performers.
Yeah, you gotta admit. Taylor Swift, frankly, she wrote a lot more of her own music
certainly,
than Beyonce
absolutely.
did. That's the reality of it.
Yeah, does she sing as well? Not even close. They're not even in the same ballpark. It's not,
and that is part of the charm. To be fair, that's like
right, and that's okay though. It really depends on your preference. Like
I like it.
I tend to be
like that she's not like a insanely gifted musician. It kind of gives something to work for,
Yeah.
It kind of gives like a goal in a way. Like I'm again very nerdy with my music. I listen to a lot of like prog rock and stuff like that. Like just
Of
like I
course
listen to like
you do.
fucking savants and shit, and progressive jazz, and like all these people are like, yeah, like I'll never be Chick Corea. I wish I could be Chick Corea. I'll never be Chick Corea, but I listen to him like every day because he's like one of the best pianists of all fucking time, in my opinion. But like, I think, but occasionally, it's like I'll listen to another band and I'll be like, oh yeah, like I could be Ray Manzarek from The Doors. It's like he's great. He's a great piano player. Like that's a bit more achievable of a goal than Chick Corea. And I think I say that as if like Ray Manzarek is like not a phenomenal, fantastic or piano player, but like I just mean to say it's nice to have a famous musician that feels like their musical ability is something that is somewhat achievable, as opposed to someone who is just like yeah, that's a savant. You'll never get there.
And she's a storyteller. I think the interesting contrast between what Beyonce does and what Taylor Swift does is Beyonce makes a statement and Taylor Swift tells a story. And both of those things are remarkable things to be able to do, and I don't believe that one is more important or better than the other. I think that they're remarkable things in music and in pop culture, and I just feel lucky that we live in an era, even if I'm not a huge fan, I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan of either artist, I feel lucky that we live in an era in which it's two women that are the greatest stars in music across the globe. That's awesome. That's something that we should be thrilled about. And, I don't. So the hate, I'm tired of it. Let's try to applaud it. You don't have to love them, but you also don't have to hate them. There's just that's unnecessary. They haven't done anything to you. They haven't done anything to you. Apparently they have.
Apparently they weaponized women against them. That's a thing I've actually heard. I've actually been like Taylor Swift weaponized women against men, made women hate me. Yeah, no, but it's what they're saying, and they believe it. They believe it. They think so ridiculous. that like somehow like empowering women. That's what I'm telling. That's why I say they have to touch grass, because that's where that comes from. Because a lot of them literally are like, Taylor Swift empowered these women and then weaponized them, and so I can't get in their pants now.
Treat your women better. Want me.
Yeah.
Treat
and I'm
women
like, bro,
better.
Red flag maybe? Like much? Come on. Like,
if you
do
think
you not see
Taylor
the problem
Swift
with what you just told me? But they believe it. Like they're like so incel-y, that they sincerely believe that Taylor Swift weaponized women against them.
That's such a ridiculous
It's so insane.
It's so absurd.
It's so insane. It makes me happy that like both of us have partners that are like big Taylor Swift fans. Because in a way, it kind of validates my own like, oh yeah, I'm not like them because I have a Taylor Swift person, an empowered woman.
Yeah, I mean, like just treat your women better, man. Like I am just so tired of that nonsense, that sort of mentality of like, oh, whoa, women hate men now. They've been radical. No, they hate men who are dicks. Stop being a dick.
What a concept.
What a concept. Don't be a jerk. Oh, it's horrible that women have raised their standards for how they should be treated. This is ridiculous. What a ridiculous argument to make. Anyway.
Hey man, that's why we have a government that wants to go back to Handmaid's Tale, right?
Yes, it is.
Because it's the only way they can bag a lady now.
Well, we hope you enjoyed the Taylor Swift commentary here. We gave you a lot more of that than I anticipated, but I think it was, it's an interesting discussion.
Hey, it's the laugh that we needed after such a dreary episode. Come on, guys.
And I'm happy for her. I'm very happy for her, and happy for her and Travis Kelce, and I'm happy that the Swifties are happy about it. Like that, I am. I genuinely am happy. My fiance was thrilled with the news. I got to tell her, by the way, which is hilarious, how many of us found out from the ESPN app. I told my wife too, which is funny. She didn't know about it from sports until I got home. I saw. Yeah. I wasn't even the ESPN app. It was the NFL posted it. I saw it on Instagram. The NFL posted it, and she thought it was fake when I texted her and whatever. But anyway, she was so excited. She was like, "Oh, to be engaged at the same time as T Swift." I was like, "Oh God!" I had to tease my wife about it because she was like, "I didn't hear that news." And this is like, it's like 6:30 p.m. Okay, and I was like, and I was like, "Oh yeah, you heard about Taylor Swift?" She's like, "No, I didn't." I'm like, "Okay, how did you not hear about that if you're on your computer the entire day working?" She's like, "Well, I'm working." I'm like, it literally came up as a pop-up on my computer screen. I couldn't not see it. Like, it's not like I was on Google. It was everywhere. Like, it literally came up on the bottom right-hand corner of my screen. It literally just plopped up, Taylor Swift engaged. Like, I had no choice but to acknowledge the fact that the news broke. And she's like, "Well, I didn't see it." Yeah. Well, on that note, hope you guys had a great time listening. We will be here every week, as long as we can be, to bring you guys breaking news, good and bad, and everything in between. And don't forget to speak to your neighbor, to reach over the aisle as best you can, because
As we've said before, it's the only tool we have left, and we can't lose it. We have to be able to talk to people. We cannot stop. From Los Angeles, California, my name is Tyler Erg.
And from Manchester, New Hampshire, my name's Jesse Saywell.
And this has been Reunited States.
And what a cruel summer it's been.
When the whole world has got you down, and there's no one else around, turn that crown right upside